So Wootware recently began bringing in a new set of AMD GPUs, the HIS RX 400 series. They sent over the entire lineup for me to check out, but since I've already done a few reviews on RX 480 GPUs, I thought it would be a good time to explore a different concept with regards to AMD's flagship Polaris card. Is there a noticeable or substantial difference between the 4GB and 8GB VRAM models? So armed with both the Ice-Q X2 4 and 8GB cards, I'm prepared to answer that question today. And while the GTX 1060 also differentiates its models with 3 and 6GB of VRAM, NVIDIA also hampered the 3GB GPU by removing 128 of its CUDA cores, a full 10% injury. However, the difference between the HIS RX 480s isn't as stark. Armed with the same 36 compute units and 2304 stream processors, the GPU chip appears to be nearly the same besides some minor core clock differences. And the similarities, at least with these two particular cards, don't stop there. They're fitted with the same Ice-Q X2 cooler with translucent blue fans, which bear the biggest resemblance to Dr. Manhattan. This cooling setup keeps the cards from going nuclear and keeps both the 4 and 8GB cards to a balmy 72 degrees Celsius. Obviously, the extra VRAM doesn't generate enough additional heat to impact the temperature readings, at least on my end. Power draw for either iteration comes in at a max of 116 watts per card during all of my testing. And then, of course, there's the same obvious similarities on either card. They share the same I/O, same 8-pin power input, and same lack of a backplate. Wah, wah, wah. And then with all of those doppelganger features stated, it's time to move on to the benchmarks. Pausing a moment for dramatic tension. And they're exactly the same. Testing my gaming suite at any resolution or API shows that the lack of 4GB of VRAM from the cheaper card has no practical impact on its gaming performance. There's a few instances where the 8GB card is able to pull ahead by maybe 1 to 2 FPS, but those are likely due to core clock speed increases that the 8GB card has, since they happen at even 1080p, even when the card isn't consuming all of its GDDR5. This honestly surprised me a little bit, especially with the results at 4K. I expected a larger gap between the two cards there, but it appears that the graphics core hinders either card more than the extra amount of GDDR5 can help out. So with conclusion time, there are a few things that I want to point out. The first is that if you're only going to be buying one RX 480, I see little reason that you need to pick up the 8GB card at this stage of modern gaming. Caveat though, there are likely games that require a redonkulous amount of VRAM at even 1080p, but if you play those games, you likely already know it and know you need the 8GB card. I'm speaking mostly for wholesale gamers and hope my benchmarks represent that. Second point, while a single RX 480 might be limited by its graphics core rather than the memory amount, that likely isn't the case for a Crossfire setup. While I haven't fully tested that idea, it's safe to say that if you're going for higher resolution gaming such as UHD with two RX 480s, then the memory will likely become a greater factor since the graphical processing ability bottlenecks are loosened a bit. So it may be worth it to drop the extra dough on both 8GB models. Thirdly, these results and conclusions really only apply directly to gaming. There are other scenarios where more VRAM could help out and would justify the extra cost, such as specialized 3D modeling programs, render farms, or even cryptocurrency mining if the blockchains are just getting massively out of hand. I'm not addressing any of those particular other scenarios in this video, but if you're in those industries, you likely already know your needs better than I do. And with those points, the main idea is that if I personally had to choose between the 4GB, this one's the 4, and this is the 8GB card for my own rig, I'd save the extra cash and pick up the 4GB card, as even the latest AAA titles aren't really utilizing the extra gigs. But regardless of which RX 480 I'm picking up, the place where I'll get it from is obvious. Wootware in South Africa should be your go-to retailer, as it is mine, for any GPU upgrades or rig improvements you want to make this year. With unbelievable pricing, astounding selection, and frankly some of the best customer support I've ever seen, picking up your new AMD GPU will be a breeze. Or NVIDIA. I'm not trying to necessarily discriminate between the red and green teams, but regardless, so if you are in South Africa, head on over to wootware.co.za to boot up your new system. The link will be in the video description. And that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Be sure to let me know what you thought of it with a like, dislike, or comment down below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new around here to stay up to date on all of my tech-related content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.